Today I'm going to be making a black willow tree for this beautiful pink amethyst crystal. It has a chunk missing out of the back of it, so it's perfect to put a tree on there. I'm going to be using the Parawire 18 gauge black colored copper wire. First, I start with my trusty bucket. I wrap the wire, starting at the seam in the bucket, all the way around until I have as much wire as I need to make the tree. The way I determine how much wire I need is based off the thickness of the bunch of wire once it's been cut. Then, using the seam of the bucket, I cut the wire as closely as I can to the seam so that all the wire pieces are the same length. I then straighten out all the wires, and I go up about a third of the way from the bottom of the wires in this particular case. And I start twisting the bottom of the trunk and then working my way down to form the roots. I divided the roots into 3 sections so that there's nothing that's going to get in the way of the front of the tree, and so that the other roots can cascade cleanly down the back of the rock. I then twist each section of roots together, reducing the number of wires as I go down until I reach the last 2 wires. Then I straighten out the roots just a little bit so I can see how it looks on the rock and make sure that everything is going to fit the way that I want it to. Once I make sure everything fits, I cut the remaining ends of the wires off to neaten up the ends of the roots. Then I can start on the branches. I make the trunk a little bit longer to match the proportions of the tree that I want for this particular rock. I don't have any particular guide that I follow. I mostly just go off my experience of observing trees. Then I start to section out the branches when it feels right in the bends of the trunk. I usually try to keep an even number of wires in each branch because I like to end each little twig in 2s. It's just easier to deal with that way. Then I decrease the number of wires in each branch as I go up until I run out of wires at the top of the tree. Then, making each branch is very similar to the roots, except I make the branches shorter as I go up the tree. I twist the wires until I get towards the end of what I think the length of the branch should be. And there should still be quite a bit of wire left over to make the leaves with later. I use a double-pointed knitting needle to coil my leaves. In this particular instance, I decided that a 4mm needle would be about the right size to coil the leaves for this particular willow tree. Next, I separate out a single wire and go about 1 to 2 inches from the end of the wire. Secure it onto the needle by wrapping it around a couple of times, and tack down the end with some pliers. I then wind the needle up the wire until it meets the branch. I then pull the needle out of the wire and straighten out the coil to form a long, coiled willow leaf. Now here I cleaned up the bottom of the leaf, but I ended up cutting off the ends later. Now, if you're like me, and your fingers are made of a soft and delicate flesh, it is often much easier on your fingers to use power tools to your advantage. Usually when I make wire leaves, I actually use a drill to spin the needle for me. It saves a lot of time and pain, especially when using copper wire. But it is a little easier to grasp the concept of making leaves when you do it by hand, and not everybody has a drill. And if you don't have a drill, and you want to do this, I would recommend starting with aluminum wire, because it's a lot softer and cheaper and easier on your hands to work with. Once the leaves are coiled, it's time to attach the tree to the rock. I use UV resin, a UV curing flashlight, and of course safety glasses, because the light is dangerous to look at for long periods of time. I first secure the base of the tree and really make sure that it's stuck on there well. It's the basis of the entire tree and root system. So, if the basis isn't strong and secure, the rest of it can't be. Then I tack down each of the roots, starting at the thicker parts and then working my way down towards the ends. Here I also used a little piece of wire to scoop resin into the more hard to reach spots. Not every single root is stuck down, but everything is tacked down enough to where nothing feels loose. I want to make sure that it's strong enough so that this tree is never coming off that rock by accident. I also tuck the ends of the roots in so they're not going to accidentally poke somebody. Finally, it's time to neaten up this tree, or as I call it, fluffing. And now I cut off the ends of the leaves just to give it a cleaner, crisper look. And that's it. That's how I made this willow tree on an amethyst crystal. Thank you so much for watching, and if there's anything in particular you want to see me make next, please leave a comment down below, and I'll see you next time.